Hi, I'm Maria, and I want to show you how to make this beautiful flower that's on the front of this card using the Build a Blossom stamp set and the Blossom Petals Punch from the new Minis Occasion catalog. This is the stamp set, and the Blossom Petals that I'm going to use are this one, and then this is the variegated pattern. And then there are smaller blossoms near the top, and I'm going to use this one and this one. For the leaves, I will be using the same petal one, the same as the petal, the blossom petals, and this is the vein leaf pattern that I will be using. The colors that I will be using are Daffodil Delight and Celery Green, certain celery. You start by stamping a row of petal blossoms on a on a narrow strip of paper that's probably about 2 1/4 inches wide. For the smaller blossoms, it's about 1 1/4 inch. This is just a little bit bigger. And for the leaves, I use certain celery ink on certain celery cardstock. I just want to show you how to stamp the images onto a scrap piece of paper. So I start by using the larger of the blossom petals. And for the bottom row, which is a solid color, I just stamp with the full strength of the ink onto the paper. Now you'll need a scrap piece of paper for the second step, because the next petal with the variegation pattern involves two-step stamping. So you ink up your stamp, you stamp off, and then stamp onto your cardstock, and that leaves a little bit of a watermark, and that's what you want. Then select the stamp that has the variegation in the pattern and ink up. I'm just going to move this over a little bit. And you can use a Stamp-A-Majig if you want, but with the clear stamps, it's really very easy to match up. Stamp right on top. And if you don't get it perfect, don't worry about it. In nature, you'll find a lot of imperfections, and they're pretty beautiful. For the small blossom petal, you use the smaller paper. This is probably a little bit bigger. And again, you use the two-step stamping because you have the variegation pattern. So stamp off and then stamp onto your cardstock, leaving a watermark. Then you pick the stamp that has the variegation. Again, ink up your stamp and just stamp over top. Well, that's not too bad, considering I'm stamping with my left hand and I'm right-handed. For the leaf, you do the same thing. You're going to use this same stamp again, so just make sure that I'll just clean that off. Certain celery and certain celery cardstock. Again, ink up your stamp, stamp off, and then stamp onto your cardstock. And again, it leaves a watermark. Now you pick the stamp that has the variegation in it. Ink up your stamp. Right over top. There you go. Now, to start punching them out, I'll just close up my ink pads so that I don't inadvertently drop something on my ink pads or drop my ink pads on the floor. This is what the punch looks like. It's got all the same shapes as in the stamp set. Start by punching at, well, whatever layer you want, but you have to start by matching up the shapes. Now I started at this end of the cardstock. You can see that the shapes don't match up. So you just turn it around, and I think now you can see the reason why I'm using strips of cardstock rather than a whole paper, because this reduces waste of paper. Now, what I do next is I just cut off this little strip. Sorry, I went off camera there. And then when you go to punch the next one, you don't have to punch through that waste and have debris flying all over your craft room. Now for the next one, the variegated blossom petal, you just do the same thing, and I'll just punch one of these out so that you can see. Now for the little guys, I'm going to just make this a little bit smaller. You can see where the little guy is right there. I'll just call him little guy because he's right between two big blossom petals. So if I was to punch this out and I had a petal stamped right here on the paper, I would be punching right through this and ruining my stamp. So that's why I suggest you stamp a little further apart to accommodate this. You can see that if I had an image stamped right here, it would punch right out. So just cut off your paper and then do the next punch. Okay, I've punched them all out for the sake of time. Just clear this off. Now the flower needs a base upon which to build. So I've punched out a 1 1/4 inch circle in Daffodil Delight. And you start with the bottom layer, and you lay all of your 9 pieces around the way you like it. And you can use snail adhesive to snail up the bottom if you wish, or I like to use the 2-way glue pen. And I'll get my little scrap piece of paper so that I don't ink up my work surface. Just put a little bit of glue just on the tip, and then just glue it with the tip very near the edge of the circle, the outer edge, like this. And when you're finished putting all of them together, it should look like this. With the variegated leaves, you put them in with the tip closer to the middle and between the petals. Like this. When you're done, it looks like this. Already it looks pretty gorgeous, but we want to put the little guys on. So again, you arrange them so that the tip, sorry, my hand should be the other way. Put the tip in the middle and try to put these little guys between the petals if you can. Now you can't see them that well because they're of similar color. There's a better one. Okay. There you go. And when you're done, it should look like this. Now, I've already put the leaves on that, And basically what you decide to do when you punch out the leaves is you just put them where you think you would like them. Now the center needs something, and I've decided to put an antique brad in the center of the flower. These are the brads by Stampin' Up. They have a nice selection. And I need my matte pack and I just make a hole in the center, and you make a fairly big hole because the prongs are quite big. These prongs close together, through, and there we have the flower. Okay, this is the completed card. I've made another card with this stamp set as well. Looks like this. It's a different color. And this. Thank you very much.